Hello, welcome back to today's training. You made it through day one of introspection, and we're moving on to day two. And today we are going to talk about breaking through those limiting mental beliefs. Now, the first thing that we need to do today is that we need to give ourselves some permission to dig a little deeper. A lot of times whenever we're going through this mental work, it feels uncomfortable, and that is because it is. It's because we're dealing with a lot of deep-seated thoughts and beliefs systems that we have held on to maybe without even knowing it for a long time. And if you want to take the next step forward in your health, in your professional life, in your relationships, anything, anything that requires you to do some deep mental work, we need to start by giving ourselves permission, and really just thanking yourself and appreciating that you can take the time and you have the wherewithal to do this. So if you need my permission, permission granted. However, I think it's more important from you. Again, today we're going to start breaking down these limiting beliefs and how they're keeping you from reaching your goals. It's not a question. It is. We all have limiting beliefs that hold us back from reaching our goals. And first thing that we need to focus on is realizing that we want to move from this fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And a fixed mindset is an entity-based mindset, is that I am a certain way and I cannot change it. It puts you in the victim seat and doesn't promote you focusing on solutions. It only focuses on problems. We want to focus on solutions and growth and know that every obstacle that we face, every time we fail, every time we trip up, it is an opportunity for growth and moving forward in our life. So keep that in mind as we move forward today. A little review of last time. We no longer want to focus on setting outcome-based goals. We need to start at the core and focus on our identity, then our beliefs or our processes, and then our outcomes. And so we focus on identity. Today we're going to start focusing on processes. This is better. All right, so today, first thing we need to do is dive into our subconscious mind. And subconscious mind is where things like beliefs and emotions and habits and values and protective reactions and long-term memory, imagination, and intuition are stored. And so we're not going to go through this whole exercise, but I just want you to think of, first of all, 3 things that really piss you off, that really make you kind of crazy, unreasonably upset. And even if you are not an angry person, what are some of these things that really just get on your nerves? What are things that really annoy you? And maybe take some time to write these things down now or after the video. Go back and think about it a little bit more. Because what you're going to realize is that these things, if you just look at what is the opposite of them, then these are your core values. And so I'm going to take you through one that I come across a lot, because whenever I usually ask this question of what pisses you off more than anything in the world, I typically get bad drivers. And bad drivers is not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is, well, what makes somebody a bad driver? And really it always comes down to that they are inconsiderate of other people's safety and time. And so the opposite of inconsideration is being considerate. And so we want, so the core value is being considerate of other people in the way they live their lives. And so this is the core value. This is held in your subconscious, and it promotes the way that you act. And it promotes the way that you, even more importantly, react. It holds your emotions based towards people who are either considerate or inconsiderate. So digging a little bit deeper, our subconscious is sometimes referred to as the inner child. It's because it's the part of our brain that was developed until around the point of puberty, and it's when we internalize the world based on our perceptions and beliefs of people around us most. Our influence system, I'm going to refer to it as in the near future here. And basically, the best way I can describe it is, when you look at this, what do you see, right? If you've never seen or been explained what this is right now, typically most people respond to it's a white triangle. There's a white triangle here, all right? However, the thing is that there's no white triangle there. It is our brain trying to make sense of something that really doesn't make sense to us. Why would these 3 Pac-Man things be facing each other in this way? But we know the triangles are made out of right angles, and that this absence of shape makes a triangle. Our brain puts this line right there, right here, and right there, even though that is not actually there. And that's how the subconscious works. It helps us try to make sense of things that maybe don't make sense to us based off of past patterns, scripts, or stories that we've seen. So, just a little recap. Developmental puberty, we're at the most influenceable time in our lives, and it's based off of other people's beliefs, values, habits, reactions, because it's before the point where we have had the opportunity to create our own. So when we combine all of those things, our mind creates powerful, protective power scripts or patterns, scripts, and stories. And there's my stock photo that I used. And that may or very well may not serve us today. All right. These protective stories have probably served us in the past at some point, but they may not serve us today. So we want to give ourselves permission to break that down, because that story is associated with a part of your life that is rooted in fear and anxiety. All right. Fear being that we are scared of anything around us in the past or the future. Anxiety being that we are afraid that we are not going to be able, what is going to handle in the future or what is coming at us. And this is what I call the dark. But the super awesome thing about being in the dark, and sadly what most people never realize, is that the dark is just an opposite. Opposites are not soul identities. They do not exist in a microscope. I don't think that's the right term to use in that phrase. However, you get what I'm talking about. They are not soul identities. They are two halves. It's one half of a whole. Everything is yin and yang. If you do not know what negative is, you do not know what positive is. If you do not know what light is, you do not know what dark is. If you do not know what active is, you do not know what passive is. Simple as that. So, again, two halves of a whole make the entire picture, as you see. Okay? So, these protective stories are where we discover our limiting beliefs. Things like, I'm not good enough, I need to be in control, there's no point in trying, I don't deserve to be loved, I have to keep them happy, I'm afraid, I have to be perfect. Again, going back to the beginning, this is a entity-based belief. I'm going to go back and use the exact word. Fixed mindset. Entity-based belief and fixed mindset are the same thing. So, if you accept a limiting belief as truth, it will continue to be a truth for you, or it will become a truth for you. If you accept the limiting belief, and we did in our more influential years, it then became a truth for us. And it will continue to do so unless you do the work and give yourself permission to break it down. So, I ask you, what's your story? And here is mine. What judgment do you place on yourself when your story is playing in your mind? So my story is, when I was around 12, all right, I remember my dad saying, do it right the first time. This resulted in my thought process of anxiety and perfectionism. That's the fear. The story that I thought of whenever I heard do it right the first time was that I have to be perfect at everything that I do the first time, or else it's a waste of time and I'll look stupid. That was my fixed mindset, my influential fixed mindset. And if I don't resolve a challenge right the first time, I'm stupid. Can you guess my worst subject in school? I've never had anybody get it wrong. It's math, right? And I didn't make this. I just pulled it from the interwebs. That's why it says maths. So I suck at maths. That was my story, right? And this was literally my story. I got the answer wrong in class. I failed the last two tests. My mother said it's in her genes, right? It gives me excuses to believe my fixed mindset. And it's what holds up these beliefs, or what hold up our story. They protect us whenever we fail more tests or get more answers wrong. We can fall on these excuses for the story that we're telling ourselves. So how do we break this down, right? We're going to give you, I'm actually going to skip ahead for a second. The action step that I want to give you is to interrogate your subconscious. And if you just want to do the simple, quick version, you can do that. However, I find it really beneficial to move to the more advanced level. However, I'm going to break them down for you. The novice version, that's a little bit quicker, takes 5 minutes to write down any life lessons you remember, your influence system, which is your parents, your friends' parents, your teachers, your guardians, whatever, teaching you before high school. So before about the age of 13, 14. Okay? The advanced level is to write down all of your ages. So it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth down the line. Leave space in between them on a piece of paper and write down all the major life events and life lessons that had an impact on your thinking until that point. So you want to list out how you interpreted it and how you've used that story to protect you. For each of them, write down as many as you can. Really, really give yourself permission to dig deep. List out how you interpreted that story, how you used it to protect you, and write down how it no longer serves you. And you will realize all the limiting beliefs that may have resulted in you being in the position of not believing that you're a healthy person. Now, there's one more thing that we can do, and this is just a little bonus. So you can stop the video here if you'd like to, but this is something that I learned from Tony Robbins, and it's called a 3 miracles meditation, right? And so what are 3 miracles that are some of the greatest things that happen to you? Remember us going back to saying, when I see it, then I'll believe it, right? Which is a limiting belief. It is, if I believe it, then I'll see it, all right? Here's proof. If you don't think you've ever seen a miracle, your heart beats. You breathe about 20,000 times a day, every day, all day, without thinking. That's a miracle. If you've had a child that was born from just about nothing, that's a miracle, right? If something has happened to you that you did not think could possibly happen that impacted your life in a positive or maybe a negative but ended up being a positive way, we may not always get what we want, but we always get what we need. Those are miracles. And so think about, stop by getting yourself into a great place, a great mindset. Take some real nice deep breaths, 3 to 5 seconds in, 3 to 5 seconds out, maybe for a couple minutes. I want you to think about a challenge or unfinished business that you may have. I want you to think of it in full color, in full detail. How does it feel? How does it smell? What can you touch? I want you to think about it in full life, color, and movement. Then I want you to think about each of the 3 miracles that you thought about before this. And I want you to put yourself in that moment, put yourself seeing it in color, seeing it move, relive that miracle. Give yourself time to do that. Be in that moment for about 10 to 20 seconds. Feel how you felt. Feel your heart, feel your thoughts, feel your emotions, feel your nerves, feel every piece of you. Think about each of them and what a great miracle each of those was. Now, after you've been able to do that, I want you to stop and I want you to revisit that challenge or unfinished business. I want you to think about, has the answer come to you of what you have to do to solve your unfinished business? That typically gets the result that you're looking for. Thank you for joining me today. Go forth and prosper. We'll see you next time.